Matt Armstrong sees a wrecked car as one that needs to be fixed. Most auto mechanics would just walk away from it. With just tools, hard work, he fixes up engines that other people have written off and gets them running again. Matt's garage has seen everything, from smashed supercars to bent-up daily drivers. But he makes every one of them into a car that's fun to drive. He doesn't just fix things when he rebuilds. They show skill and the will to do what no one else will. Come with us as we look at some of Matt's best car restorations. It's a story of how Matt Armstrong went from being poor to becoming famous. He started out as a BMX rider, and he was going to compete in a competition that would change his life. But he hurt himself and had to change careers. That made Matt love fixing cars again, just for fun, until his girlfriend Hannah crashed her Audi TT. Matt's life changed at that moment, and what better way to start his story of fixing up cars than with the same one? Hannah drove the Audi TT every day until she crashed it on her way home from work in 2018. The accident damaged the car badly, but Matt didn't give up. He saw it as a chance to use his skills, so he bought the damaged Audi from the insurance company for only £600, a small amount of its £15,000 value. After that, he went to work. The Audi wasn't in great shape. The airbags went off, and the front bumper, hood, and radiator were all broken. Before starting the repairs, Matt thought about putting a video of each step on his YouTube channel to see what would happen. After that, he wrote down how he fixed the bodywork and replaced broken parts before painting it to make the car look brand new. The rebuild, which took months and cost about £5,000, made the car a showstopper. People liked Matt's detailed approach, which drew attention to his channel for being honest. It was hard to fix up the Audi TT because he hadn't had any formal training, but he took the big step anyway. Matt surprised Hannah with the finished Audi TT after he was done fixing it up. Her reaction was caught on video, showing how much she appreciated Matt's hard work and dedication to the project. But while the Audi became a symbol of Matt's early success, his work restoring Marcus Rashford's Rolls-Royce Wraith was the start of his big wins. It was bad luck for football star Marcus Rashford's Rolls-Royce Wraith Mansory edition when he was in an accident in 2013. The car was worth about £700,000 when it was first bought. The tuning company Mansory added custom bodywork, premium interiors, and special touches. The insurance company wrote off the car after the accident and put it on a list as salvage. This is where Matt came in. Most car fans would have turned down such an expensive and difficult project, but Matt saw it as a challenge worth taking. He bought the wrecked Wraith for £184,000. It was a mess with the Wraith. The left side was broken, the front was smashed, and the suspension and exhaust were ruined. But that's not all. The parts were hard to find and cost a lot because it was a Mansour edition. Matt bought another Rolls-Royce Wraith for £90,000 so that he could use it as a donor car for parts that were hard to find or cost a lot of money each. It wasn't enough for Matt to just swap out panels for the restoration, he also had to fix and reinstall complex electronics. The air suspension systems and Mansour's one-of-a-kind interior parts, just the blue leather seats made just for you, cost about £25,000. He also changed the carpets, lights, and steering system. It took weeks to get the bodywork to fit perfectly, and the Mansory bumpers, grille, and carbon accents had to be ordered. It cost Matt more than £300,000 to bring the Wraith back to life. This included custom parts for both cars, tools, and hours of work. But just as Matt was finishing up the restoration, he got a call from Kurash Mansory, the founder of the Mansory Tuning Company. Kurash apparently saw the rebuild and wanted to look at the car himself. Matt then took the Wraith on a road trip to Germany, where he drove it on some of the most beautiful and difficult roads in Europe. The whole trip wasn't easy. The Wraith's suspension started to leak, and a small dent showed up after parking in Monaco. Matt kept going, making the trip part of the story. When he finally got to Mansur's headquarters in Germany, he was greeted with a friendly but honest welcome. Kurash praised Matt's work, but he wasn't shy about pointing out mistakes in the bodywork, like missing Mansory badges and other small things that didn't match the original custom order. The Mansory team stepped in to help, though, and fixed the body panels, added the right emblems, fixed the interior trim, and put on their signature wheels, all for free. But Matt wouldn't give up. He kept pushing the limits with his amazing restorations. He worked on a wrecked 2019 Aston Martin Viv 8 Vantage in 2021, which was one of the most exciting projects on his YouTube channel. Matt bought the car after a crash, as he always does. The Aston Martin's hood was crumpled, its headlights were broken, its suspension was broken, and damage went all the way into the engine bay. He got to work right away. The first thing he had to do was get the Aston Martin going, which wasn't easy. He tried running diagnostics through the OBD port, but nothing useful came up. The car wouldn't respond right, and every attempt felt like a dead end. If he asked Aston Martin for help, things got trickier. They told him that they can't sell parts to individuals because of safety rules. Some things could only be bought by authorized repair shops. Matt had to think of something new. It helped him that the Aston Martin 6.8 Vantage and the Mercedes-Benz C63S had a lot of the same parts. He looked at the V8 Vantage as a C63S and was able to get around some electronic blocks to find the problem. It looks like the car's engine shut down on its own to avoid what the system thought was a crash. But Matt was able to reset the system and get the engine running again with some computer work and patience. This was a big step forward in the build. This big step forward gave Matt the drive to keep going with the complicated rebuild that was still ahead. The rebuild took a while because Matt had to carefully line up the front frame and chassis again. He put in the new suspension and steering parts one at a time, making sure that each one fit perfectly. He took the car to an official Aston Martin dealership after it was fully fixed up. Technicians did a full check there. They did diagnostics, checked the suspension, and looked at every part. They were impressed with the result. When Matt's team saw how closely his work matched factory standards, they praised his work. Matt pulls out all the stops when you think he couldn't top his last masterpiece. The Lamborghini Murcielago from 2002. The Murcielago is different from the other cars he has restored because it has a story behind it that shows how special it is. Matt had always said that the Lamborghini was his dream car, so when he got the chance to work on it, he jumped at it. But what began as a dream quickly turned into a headache. Matt bought the car from Everyman Racing, a track day company that said it was in good enough shape to use with only minor repairs needed. However, that wasn't true. The engine had been taken out 7 years before and never put back in, and the flywheel, clutch, and other parts were missing. Matthew Armstrong was told by the Track Day Experience Company that they had tried to rebuild the engine themselves, but something went wrong during the rebuild, so they never finished it. Later, Armstrong found out that the mechanic who had worked on the car before and not done it right was in jail and charged with armed robbery. Even so, the Track Day Company told Matt Armstrong that they would include all the parts except for a few that they would pay for. Armstrong and his team paid the agreed-upon amount and loaded up the Murcielago to take it back to their garage. Even though he was thrilled to start working on his dream car, Matt and his crew quickly saw that the Murcielago was in worse shape than they thought. The cam caps being put on in the wrong order was one of the first red flags. It was clear that the person who had worked on the engine before didn't have the skills or knowledge to handle such a complicated car. The more they looked, the more problems they found. The timing of the ignition was all wrong, the piston rings were broken, and many engine parts were missing. He tried to get back in touch with the company that sold him the car in hopes of getting at least some of the missing parts, but they stopped responding after a few messages. Matthew and his team had to go ahead with the rebuild since the sellers hadn't replied. Matt brought in a reliable Lamborghini expert from the area to help them figure out what they were up against. The expert confirmed that the car's electronics and instrument cluster were damaged during a failed attempt to jumpstart it. But Matt and his team never gave up on their project. They were sure they could get the Milego running again, which was the whole point of the project in the first place. Even though it turned out to be harder than they thought it would be, it gave them a great chance to rebuild a famous supercar and make a lot of great videos for their YouTube channel. The Murcielago finally came back to life. It needs more work before it's ready for the track, but the fact that it runs is a big win. Matt took on another big project in 2023 when he got a rusty and broken down 1989 BMW E24. It wasn't just the car that was broken, it had a lot of issues that other mechanics had tried to fix but failed. It got even worse, not even Matt knew how long the BMW had been off the road. It was even worse that no one could say what was wrong with it. Matt was still up for the challenge because he thought he could bring it back to life. Things looked good at first. After replacing the old batteries, the electronics turned on, the lights came on, and the dashboard powered up. For a moment, it seemed like the worst was over. But when Matt turned the key, the 3.5L inline-6 engine stayed quiet. It didn't crank, and there were no signs of life. After that, he looked into it more to see what was wrong. He looked in the fuse box and saw that a few relays were missing. He also took out what looked like an old alarm system that might have been blocking the spark, but that didn't help. He then changed the ignition coil because he thought that might be what was wrong. Again, though, nothing happened. Every fix that was thought of ended in failure. Matt tried something that didn't even look like it would fail after trying all the usual suspects. It was an electronic control unit. He ordered a used one for the same model, but he wasn't sure if it would make a difference. After hours of trying different things, Matt finally got the BMW E24 up and running. To his surprise, the engine started up again as soon as the new control unit was put in.